Hey everyone, Sharon Kasleka here from Divine Numbers and Theories, a place where people can talk openly about what's happening in this world without any bashing because we like to use our minds there. And also, you may catch me at communitythinkingtank.com. I want to encourage you. It is a new way to connect the entire world. It's not a business where people can come together and all donate 5 hours a month to the epidemic of our homelessness, the euthanizing of our animals that are off the charts, our homeless veterans, families that can barely put food on the table. Please go check it out. We're going to have a snowball effect here pretty soon, and we're getting ours going at the Utah Community Thinking Tank. So thank you very much. But enough about me. I want to introduce my special guest, Sarah Ripard from Parentainment. Thank you for being here. And I would like to introduce her and give a little bio before we get going. So Sarah is an artist, host, producer, and entrepreneur dedicated to truth and the awakening of human consciousness. With 20 years in Hollywood, she's speaking my language, both in front of and behind the camera. She has worked across film, television, and theater, fearlessly tackling complex themes. I love it. A passionate geopolitical voice in the Great Awakening. She challenges narratives and ignites dialogue. As the host of Parentainment, a multimedia platform, she delves into what it truly takes to conceive birth and raise healthy, self-regulating, and compassionate humans, guiding us towards sovereignty and freedom as we step into a new earth, breaking free from systems that have kept us enslaved for so long. Wow, girl, we got connected through the Holy Spirit is all I know.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I cannot wait to hear your story. So let me ask you real quick, what inspired you to get into Hollywood? What was that like in the very beginning for you?
Well, first of all, Sharon, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here because anytime you meet a fellow traveler, it is a gift. It is
I
a gift,
agree.
and I call upon it every day. And so this is meant to be. So thank you. And thank you
Oh,
for all
thank
the
you.
work you're doing. And I'm learning more about the incredible things you're doing. So I look forward to
Oh,
participating more in the work and so we can lift this tide
right?
for the whole of humanity, right? Not just for some people.
It's not about ourselves, it's about a collective, and
Yes,
it's very real, and people are about to find out.
that's right. Service to others, service to others.
Mhm.
So Hollywood and acting. So I come from four generations of an acting, musician, social activism family. I was born in Malta in Europe, which is right south of Italy. And And then I went to England with my mom. My parents divorced. I went to England and then lived there for many of my formative years. And then I acted and I learned from my family and I saw what my grandmother went through in Malta. She was, you see, in Europe, more so than I've seen here, it's changing and you can find it. But in Europe, because it's so much older, politics and art are meshed. They're meshed together.
Interesting.
Right?
That was not an accident either, by the way.
Not an accident. So
Hmm.
my grandmother used to fight the government all the time, and she was an actress, and she helped to get a lot of things changed in the country. In
Wow.
fact, because Malta is primarily a Catholic country, they excommunicated her, not that she cared, but they buried her. So when you're excommunicated, for those of your guests who may not know, they literally bury you on the outside of where
And
the
shame you.
so-called, good people are buried. It's absolutely insane.
I'm so proud of her though, because it comes
Yeah,
down to you. It's like the Mormons out here, same thing. They get
yeah.
ex.
It's really crazy. Okay, okay, that's my daughter telling me what she's up to.
Hi, sweetie.
I go back up the stairs. So yeah, so that was a world that I saw up front
Wow.
in Malta. And it's become like that now here. But in Malta, you didn't go to your doctor unless you knew what political affiliation they had.
Are you
That
serious?
Yeah, that's how tense it was. The tension was very, very tight. And I remember my grandmother and her sister, she would come over for coffee in the morning. They'd have their ritual of coffee in the morning, and they'd fight the whole time because one was a nationalist and one was a Labor. So which is like
Mm.
Democrat and Republican. So there would be fight, fight,
Mm.
fight all the time.
Because
Hilarious.
we were programmed to fight like that.
That's right. And then they would just
Mhm.
then go have their coffee, which is a little different to what we're seeing
They
today,
didn't draw
right?
blood or anything, right? I hope not.
That's right. So it's just like, well, it's what's different, what we're seeing now, and we'll get obviously into that later, is, you're really seeing that I think one side of this war can actually absorb the other and with their differences and they can say, listen, I'm just trying to show you X, Y, Z, right? But
Mhm.
the other side is very resistant to opening up. And I do think that has something to do with the jibby jab. I call it the jibby jab, the bioweapon.
Oh, especially lately. I've been
Yeah,
noticing it too. People are acting cray cray. Like I almost got hit by a big, huge truck the other day. The dickhead would, excuse me.
you say that
I
all the
mean, literally, I didn't know what ramp I was getting on, and I didn't know there was a tight, like, ooh, you got to squeeze in. The guy, if I didn't pull over to the guardrail, he would have clocked me.
That's right.
I'm
My
like, there you
friend,
go.
well, I'm glad you said because my friend and I, we call it, oh, I just met another jab brain on the road. There's a
Mm,
reason why they have the zombie checklist on the
the zombie
CDC website,
apocalypse.
right?
It's only been
Right?
in
They
our
have
face
that.
all along, right? Mhm.
So the difference between Europe, because again, it's just older. I call it like a well-worn shoe. So things, you see things there sort of already in its, you can see the history of just how these relationships have formed over hundreds and hundreds of years. So I
Mhm.
grew up with that's why, people in Europe in general, I mean, it's changed a lot because they've been completely taken over by the New World Order over there. You can really see the difference between Europeans tend to know a lot more and invested in history and politics. Granted, it's
Well, because you're so much older over there. America's you pretty much new still
yeah.
when you think about it.
Correct. And also
Mhm.
to America was because it was such an amazing when the Patriots, the real Patriots, not the cabal who came over and tried to ruin
Mhm.
it. America, the cabal wants to destroy America because it's so great. So
Yeah.
I think for, people to understand that it's really important to separate the Patriots who came over and then the cabal who came over
Yeah.
and did things in the names of saying they were Americans. They weren't Americans. They were never a real America patriots as we know in the movement today. And so
Mhm.
kind of so in Europe, coming back to the acting, is I saw this up front. I saw what it was like to live in a socialist communist environment. And also my mom is from Mauritius, so which is in the Seychelles and the Indian Ocean. So I grew up in a very
Wow.
international family. So I've seen what communism and socialism does in the flesh. So
So
that's
sad. I'm
why
so sorry.
this movement and why so many people voted for Trump is because so many immigrants did, is because they're coming from countries where they're escaping that, right? And because America
Exactly.
is relatively new in that way, it was easier for the cabal to brainwash for decades so that you take civics out of
Fresh
school.
meat. Fresh
Like
meat.
fresh meat, you take civics out of school, you take politics out of school.
Yeah.
You can't really have nuanced discussions
Mhm.
in terms of politics. It's all very, snippets,
This way and no
soundbite.
way. This is the
Yeah,
only way. Let's not
it
talk about it. Do as I say, not as I do.
yeah, it's very
Mhm.
soundbite snippets of what reality is, and which is crazy. And I challenge people all the time. Where did you get that from? Did you read the full text? Did you watch the whole interview? Where are you getting it from? And then they just shut up after two sentences because they just saw it on social media and then posted it. And I'm like, well, you didn't do any thinking around that. What are you doing?
Mhm.
So anyway,
It's another business. They
it
people really
yeah,
don't understand that
it's
our media are all businesses. They're in
businesses.
it to make money
Correct,
and to
right. So
utilize
profit
their
margin.
airtime
Yeah,
to brainwash people. That's why
brainwash
we read
people.
all the books in high school. Like, right?
No,
I
it's
mean, it was in our
crazy.
face all along. Oh,
So then I left Malta, I left England, and I was acting in England. And then I wanted to at the time, I did not understand what I know now, obviously. But
Mhm.
I never felt, even as a kid, I never felt I was getting the full story. And as an artist, you're a storyteller. You tell stories of humanity. You study humanity. You study humans. You study psychology, human behavior, and what makes them click and what makes them tick. And
Yeah.
so I was interested in that. But it's called show business. So there's a business to the show, right?
They put it in your face
Correct.
again.
It's
I
not
love
art.
it.
It's not just show. It's not just art. It's show business. So then,
And scripted.
yes. So long story short, I wanted to go to Hollywood because I really thought, again, at the time, right, I wasn't awake as I am today, and my eyes weren't open as they are today, but I had clues the whole time. I never felt like I was in my I never felt comfortable in my skin, as in I knew that there was a lie being told, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I felt like I was living in an alternate reality. So we end up going, my husband and I end up going to Hollywood over
About
10
20 years
years.
ago.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And because I thought at the time I was going to go, and funnily enough, isn't it interesting? I actually had a white hat approach to it. I thought I was going to go to Hollywood, make these amazing movies that are going to help inspire humanity and be so incredible and so this and that and the other to inspire the world to transform and wake up humanity to do good. Well, I get there and I did a lot of theater in DC. DC was my first home. Washington, DC was my first home in the United States. I lived a couple of blocks from the White House. And yeah,
I
I
heard
lived,
that the energy's creepy around there.
yeah.
You gotta
And
let me
it's
know.
so beautiful there. That's the thing. It's absolutely stunning. Like it's
Well, if you're
beautiful.
evil, you want it like
Of
all
course you
the
want
evil,
pretty.
they want a beautiful surroundings and
You
women and
do.
their
And
stuff and
the ley lines that they're built on and everything. So it's really
mhm.
interesting. So then, but come to Hollywood, I I came and I thought, this didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. And going to on Broadway as well, it didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. And we can
Mhm.
get into more the nuances of what I experienced and what I saw. But what I want to get across to your audience is very important, because one of the things that is very irritating when I see a lot of truthers posting or people who think they know what that world is like, they
Mhm.
they blanket it in one brush of color. And the truth
Mhm.
of the matter is, the deep state, the cabal, as many of your audience probably knows, the CIA, Hollywood is a construct of CIA and many other.
Yeah, that's no longer a conspiracy theory. That's like
That's
proven.
right.
For the
That's
record.
That's right. So when you see the Hollywood, CIA, London, City of London, Washington, D.C., all these very important portals of this construction, then you really start to go, holy shit.
It's in your face
It
everywhere
is
once you open your
everywhere.
eyes.
But
Mhm.
this is how it works. And as somebody like myself who has been in these very upper circles, because you
Mhm.
can't help it when you reach a certain point in your career, and there's a reason why I left when I left, is
Mhm.
because you are around these people all the time if you are, you know, graduating in your career.
Mhm.
Now, the way the cabal does this, and I'm sure your audience probably knows this already, but the cabal moves very, very slowly, which is why they've been able to slow boil us for so long. The reason they're so freaking out with the Great Awakening since 2020 and where we are today is because we are moving so fast, and that is not their MO. That's why they're
They
freaking
didn't think
out.
it was going to happen.
Correct. Yeah. And also
Mhm.
they're freaking out with like Doge and all the changes, and now Trump's back in because they're terrified. They move so slowly, so you don't see how they're switching you out, right? How they're
Yeah.
switching your brain to think in a certain way. So going back to Hollywood, and also this is how it works in elite families as well,
Mm.
and big corporations, and when you're around the elites, it's called plausible deniability. Very, very, very common phrase that you hear in war and you hear in social circles. You
Interesting.
could be standing, and this is why anybody who's really below maybe a B actor, um, I would say a B actor, B plus actor, will have most of them will have no clue of what's going on. They have no
Makes
clue,
sense. That makes
right?
sense because they didn't have to go through the certain,
No,
like in college and sororities, they didn't go through that process. Is that?
no. They get, well, they pick you for certain reasons. The reason I escaped probably going into some of those satanic circles is because I had a big mouth and I was never desperate. So they need the desperation. And one of the things I can tell you is you could be like, I actually always hung out with the crew more. I always liked crew people because they tend to be in blue collar. They
Yeah.
were working class and I felt more
Yeah.
comfortable. I
I
would
don't
go
blame you.
to parties with my husband and we knew people who were very big
Mhm.
named. And you know what? I never, my gut was never to be too close to them. And I was being, I think, divinely protected. So
Yeah.
when I'd be around them, I noticed that they felt very foreign to me. And I
Mhm.
didn't understand how they could do such beautiful films. And yet in person, they were the absolute shell of any kind of nuanced personality or the vibrancy of the messages that they gave, right?
Mhm.
And there's a reason for that, right? Like you were saying earlier about Washington, D.C. being so beautiful because, you know, you want to be surrounded by beautiful things. Now in Hollywood, they get some of the biggest monsters to play the most humanitarian roles, the hero of the story, and that's why you get a Tom Hanks, right? Because oh my
Mhm.
God, Forrest Gump couldn't be doing that, and
Signs
Green
and
Mile, and
symbolism everywhere. The big red blood handprint on the ball. What was his
yeah,
name? The
yeah,
ball again?
yeah. Who's
Norman? No.
oh
He kept
yeah, I forget
screaming.
the name.
Okay, I
Oh my
digress. But
God, but
I'm
yeah,
just
when
trying to
he's
bring
on
something to make
Outcast,
people
what is it
think.
called? Out? No, when he's on a not Outcast,
Wilson. Is it
Castaway.
Wilson? Yes,
Wilson,
Castaway.
Wilson, wasn't it? Wilson.
Wilson.
Okay,
But that's a
yeah,
perfect example for the audience to realize that literally when you know that the evil cabal, we'll call them human traffickers and just creepy, they speak in signs and symbolism. And so do the white hats as well. But once you realize and know what the signs and symbolism are, you start seeing them everywhere,
everywhere.
like on buildings and government buildings. And it's just like, I'm right 5 minutes down from the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, see,
So
you know.
I see them
Ooh.
everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's awful. And then when you because first when you're in it, when you're in that world and you're in Hollywood, and there's so this is how they get you. It's insidious. It's the genius of their evil is so brilliant. I mean, I know that sounds weird.
I know
So,
exactly what you
do you know
mean,
what I
though.
mean? It's so
Slick,
insidious.
slick.
It,
It's slick.
it's so it's like and it's so layered because one of the things they do is and this is what I went through because I struggled a lot going, why am I not going to the next level? All the while it was divine intervention. But why am I
Mm.
not going to the next level? And I had done some really great stuff and, you know, even on Broadway, and it was great. But I'm like, why am I not? Because I was in the art of it, you see, but
Mhm.
I was not seeing the satanic rituals unfolding at the time in my earlier part of
And
my
their gatherings afterward and all the creepy stuff that they do.
all the creepy stuff. And I was thinking, oh, it's art expression, right? This
Hmm.
is before I really started going into the frequency of music and the frequency of clothing and the frequency of
It's
even the
all
look.
real.
Yeah, or
I never thought that either.
yeah, it's really crazy. And then I remember when I would go and audition, and again, like I said, I had friends of mine who would never have known that the friends that they were with were the ones who were invited into the rooms. Okay.
Oh.
So, and the reason why I know this is because they pick on, okay, so say you have a total deep cabal, asshole, satanic son of a, you know, like
Hmm.
dark, dark, right?
Hmm.
They pair you with somebody who's really, I mean, I hate to say dumb, a little naive, a little gullible, because they have
Meaning the son of the bad person. Is that what you're saying?
it could be the son or like they'll pair you up to get married to certain people, to go date certain people, or if you're in a team of like creators, you're going to do a show, you're going to create a movie, the heads of the snake, so to speak, they will be super dark, but they may have a vice president who's not, because again, it's plausible deniability. You have to be able to have one who's bad and one who's good, because not many people can know the secret. You gotta understand,
Mhm.
that's why when I hear people talk about everyone in Hollywood is dark, it's not true.
I agree. I agree.
Only when you're at a certain level, and when you hit certain markers in your career. Because I can tell you this, I know a whole bunch of artists, whether they're actors, producers, directors, set designers, no clue. Maybe they have
Yeah.
more of a clue now. Definitely no clue 4 years ago. I can tell you that for a
Can
fact.
I ask you a quick question? There was a guy that went viral about what did he do? He had something to do, maybe was it the movie set or something, and he's one of the people that exposed a lot of the dark secrets. Are you familiar with that story? I don't,
Oh,
it's
you're
just
talking about Outer Shadows? The guy who did
I
Outer
think that might
Shadows?
be it. Wasn't he
About the
part of the
pedophile
movie
ring?
business, but not
Yes.
an actor, and he was
He was a
reporting
cinema,
things,
yeah, he was in cinematography.
so he was
And then he's,
leaking.
yes, he was leaking. That was actually one of the first films I saw, because my friend sent it to me, where he was talking about the circles, the pedo circles, the satanic ritual abuse circles, and how they pick people. And because he was second guessing himself, because I was second guessing myself. I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm
Mm.
just a snob. Maybe I just don't want to hang around these people, because I thought,
You're
oh,
so cute.
right.
Totally.
So I thought, oh, maybe I'm just an elite. And so I thought, oh, but you know what? Again, going back to divine intervention, because I remember stepping onto every studio set, every studio, not the set, the studio.
Hmm.
And I remember going to audition and things like that. And I remember feeling this, my stomach felt like it was in knots. And I just couldn't understand.
Figure it out.
I couldn't
I
understand
get
why
that.
I was having such a visceral reaction.
Hmm.
And it was, what is it, lovey? Okay. Okay. So my daughter, she's just getting something to drink. Sorry. And
Hi.
so, yeah, she's so shy. She won't come on.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I would feel this knot in my stomach, and I have been
You couldn't
always,
figure it out.
I couldn't figure it out. I was always vehemently protective of children. Like I remember when I would see children in auditions, and I would see their parents pushing them to go, oh, go and do it. I'm like, you need to keep an eye on your kid. Keep an eye on your kid.
Yeah.
Do not let them out of your sight. Little did I know of what was happening, because what was happening was they watch you, these demons, they watch you to
That's a
see,
good point.
they watch to see which parents are going to sell their kids out. Then they watch who has the talent. And then, then once, that's why it's called a universal contract, because they want to own you forever, right?
Not
So there's
me.
all things with the meaning of the languages, and how they
It's like the homonyms. Homonyms. They created homonyms to distort the real truth. I always say that's like you got a shot of whiskey, then you got a shot. You have the sun in the sky, you have a
that's right.
sun. This is how they distract people.
No, they do. And they're really good at it. So
Hmm.
going back to the insidiousness of the language is, so I was there, struggling with my place in this business and what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do, I was having a hard time doing. I thought, again, I was going to do these amazing, inspiring movies, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, dealing with the horrors of how the business is run as well. And then I was a dreamer. You go see the Hollywood sign before I knew what it really meant. And you're like, oh my God, my dreams. And that's how they get you. That's how they get you. They get
Yeah.
you on the dreams. You see, but I was never desperate. That's also what saved me. I was never desperate. In fact, I
You
remember,
weren't ready to sell your what's the word I'm looking for? You could just feel inside of you. You're like, I'm not gonna sell my soul, basically.
no,
Yeah.
no. I get there on my merits I always believed in my skills as a performer. That I never
Mhm.
doubted that. Isn't that interesting? So that's why when we have to raise our children to really not BS them, but really raise them with real confidence, not bullshit confidence. We
Yeah, not that fake trendy parent
no,
thing
no,
yeah,
none
what
of
they
those,
do now.
like real, if you believe in your skill and you have to improve on it, don't think that, it's just going to be with you always. Don't take it for granted. Don't be a show off, but have
Yeah.
real confidence. And I also think
Yeah.
that's why they struggle with Trump too, because he actually has real confidence.
I agree with
They're
you.
terrified of
I
his confidence.
agree. Yep.
Right. So a lot of parents say, oh, Johnny can be whatever they want to be. They actually don't believe that. Do you really? Because I've told my daughter too, and this ties into how Hollywood observes who they can
Manipulate.
attack and who can they can manipulate and who can they kidnap, right? Is I've told my daughter, I said, I don't care what the person looks like, you've got to ask questions. And I said, and it's not about being cute all the time, right? It's about
Mhm.
discerning
And
when
being
to
your
have
own person.
manners, when to be your own person, but understand what are you really valuing? What are you really valuing? Because you're only valuing your name on a billboard, there's a problem with that.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree.
That's where they try to manipulate.
Ego and
That's where
yeah.
and healthy ego can serve to a point. It can actually stop you from getting killed. And that's really what it was served for. But the way they've twisted it, they've made it look like, okay, now you have to have this beautiful ego to get you to the next level. And you must
Get
play
fake
the game.
boobs and all that stuff, and you got to plump your lips out, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And I've
yeah,
told my daughter, and this
distorting
is
your.
what they don't do in Hollywood. I've told my daughter, call me out when I'm wrong or when I'm misinforming you. Because at the end of the day, as a parent, I'm her guide,
That's right.
but I am not the arbiter of her life. I am the protector of her life.
Hmm.
But I tell her, you call me out. If something doesn't make sense, you call me out. The thing in
Hmm.
Hollywood, translate this to Hollywood now, they want you to be so subservient to a point where you never question anything, because what they drip before you, it's the devil's crossroad, right? They drip the fame, they drip the money, they drip the, don't you know how privileged you are to be here right now? So they,
Exactly.
so they
Yeah.
watch you and they watch who can be manipulated and who can't. And then once they get you in the door, then they probably do, well, not they probably, I know. They'll sell you out,
P
they'll
Diddy
pass you
stuff
around,
and
they'll
P
pass you
Diddy stuff.
around. Right, exactly. They'll say, how badly do you want it? Then that's when you have to make the choice to sacrifice, one of your family members, or they'll pass you around sexually, boys and
So creepy,
girls.
weird. Like
And
seriously.
nobody, even when I knew a big actress.
Hmm.
I'd rather not say her name. I can tell you
Yep.
off camera.
Yep.
And I was friends with her, and our kids were in the same school. My daughter went to this very small school, which was beautiful, called a Waldorf school. So it's all about
Oh,
natural learning and natural eating and all that. But it got
like a
to be,
Montessori type
yes,
school to a degree where they're not
yes,
brainwashing your children and they know it when you go in the public schools.
correct. The problem
Hmm.
is, and it's even more natural essences of even Montessori. It was so unbelievable, so amazing. But this
I
is what
bet.
happened. The commies took it over. And then 2020 was the full manifestation of what happened. So I pulled my girl out. I also
Wow.
volunteered in the school to make sure I could keep an eye on everything. I've always done that.
Smart.
I always got involved in stuff to see. And so anyway, so I kind of knew a lot of the stuff that was going on there. And also a lot of the Hollywood people would hide their kids in there to protect them from, the public schools or whatever, thinking they could.
That's what I'm
So,
saying. Yeah, they send them to there because one, they know that the regular public schools are a brainwashing tool for your kids to just
mhm.
become, work for their corporate America Ponzi schemes bullshit, and they want them to learn about the more natural and the things that we question, but they don't answer in your public schools. I mean,
They
that's what
don't.
I find so messed up about school now that I look back on it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, they even try to brainwash me and my children. And even though, parents and, teachers that work there that probably have no clue, they're all brainwashed too.
They're all brainwashed too. And I started, those of us who are awake in the school, albeit far between,
Hmm.
we would be like, wait a minute, we've just been raising our children with organic foods on a farm, which is a very particular kind of a farm. And you can't even bring cell phones on it and all this kind of stuff. It was a beautiful way. It was an anthroposophical way of how you raise children, food, nourish food, grow food, da 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 da. Suddenly they wanted to bioweapon everybody. And I remember them trying to stick a mask on me and stick a mask on my kid. I
While
said,
you're outside?
hell no. no, somebody called the director when we were trying to, the schools were closing down in 2020, as you know,
Yep.
everything became
Yep.
remote. I was managing a beautiful natural toy store that we had on the campus at the time. And I thought,
Oh,
instead of all the food going bad and snacks going bad, wouldn't it be lovely for the children to do little goodie bags? So my daughter and I, we packed up like 100 little goodie bags and
mm-hmm.
pulled them out where the circle was, where people were dropping off their homework and then they would go back home and all that bullshit. And then we were giving the little bags. We were outside. It was hot as Hades, and like hot from we have hot days also in LA, even though it was March. And we were working, so we were sweating. And I was like, I'm not wearing that bullshit outside. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't even.
No shit. We're already in nature. Durr.
Duh. And somebody, one of the moms must have called the director, and I got a phone call from the director on my phone
A
saying,
Karen. A
I've
Karen
been
called.
told,
A
I've been told,
Karen.
I mean, yeah, right. I've been told that you're not wearing your mask. I said, are you fucking kidding me? I said, I'm outside. I ain't wearing that bullshit. Don't even try
I
with me.
love you. Good for
I was
you.
like, stop it. And I had already written like a 10-page letter. None of the parents wanted to sign it, by the way. I was like, fuck it, I'll just stand on my own name because
I
I'm
love you. Good for
this is
you.
what makes you stronger. You know what I mean?
I agree.
People need to hear no more often because it makes you tougher. You've got to
Yep.
hear no sometimes, right?
Yep. I
And you
agree.
realize where your values are and you realize what you believe in. And so with the
Yeah.
resistance, there's a gift with resistance too.
Yep.
And so anyway, going back to the celebrities, so let me tell you one story. This is very important because it
Oh.
relates to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So I was friends with this person, and I really do believe we were, let me put it this way, on a craft level, like our talent, it was
Mm-hmm.
probably on par. She just
Mm-hmm.
became a famous version.
Because she sold herself out, you think?
She
Well,
sold
she
herself
okay.
out. I don't know if she was at, I
P. Diddy.
question this. I don't think she's at the sacrificing a baby level,
Okay.
but there were a few clues that she did describe to me as
Tell
as
me.
I was waking up. I was like, oh my God. And then
Something clicked in your gut. You're
something
like, holy
clicked, something
shit
was not
balls.
feeling right. And then again, I actually try to stay away from celebrities because I found them weird.
Oh,
Um,
I don't give them any time of day, especially out
no.
here. I'm like, I
Eh,
don't give a shit.
No, and then also too, because I worked with so many of them and I saw them in my circles. Again, some you could tell who were not the A-listers, they were just doing a job, right?
Uh-huh.
I never just did a job. It meant something to me. Like, I stopped doing more terrorists. I don't want to be, if I played another in terrorist, I was going to shoot someone.
But you
Right?
know what? I gotta say something to you, Sarah. Think about, and what people don't realize is, and I know it's hard for people to wrap their heads around it, but I think people are starting to get there, is entertainment was created for part for the big part of the art of war. They leave you cues and clues. Even our parents and our grandparents, whenever the TV was created and so forth, because they're literally documenting something in every time period
Mhm.
of what was really happening behind the scenes. That's why they created behind the scenes. So when the truth is told, the real behind the scenes is going to be, you get what I'm saying? But I
Totally.
realized that they had to create entertainment. Once your mind clicks, because I say this to a lot of people that are awakening, Sarah, think about this, is if we did not have entertainment, which includes music, dancing, our TV shows, our movies, even our TV commercials, they're all actors. It says right on your screen. You know what I mean? But my point is if we didn't have any of that, everyone would know that we are modern day enslaved, working 5 to 7 days a week, barely paying bills. Like people would be awakened. So
That's
that's
right.
why I believe they created entertainment. And I believe Jesus made a deal with the devil. He's like, okay, like we'll make a deal. and we will allow you to sell your snake oils and you can program people's heads. And but when the truth is told, we're going to awaken them and we're going to flip the script and we're going to use all this entertainment for Team Jesus and we're going to make it pretty humorous. But there's going to be horror, there's going to be scariness, there's going to be romance, everything. That's my own take. The Holy Spirit already told me, and that's why I have the gift of decoding in gematria, numerology. My brain, it always is in overdrive because I decode.
Overdrive. Oh, I bet. This is the thing that makes me sad, actually, because so I'll tell you what happened with this person on around 2020.
Yeah.
And then, but before I do that, I just, so your audience gets a sense of it. It's really sad because you genuinely, as an artist, we are the reflections of time, and we're the reflections of history, and we're the roles that get played in a theater, in a movie, are telling stories. It's storytelling. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we've been so fucked with our, and most people in Hollywood don't know all this stuff. They don't know that's the CIA construct and all that.
They're just handed a script. Here, rehearse your lines.
Yeah, and so you have genuinely talented people. I mean, I met some incredibly talented people who really wanted to just do a beautiful show or do a beautiful film, and they had their hearts in it. And the problem with the manipulation, again, if you don't want to be famous, you can do that, fine, right? But this is the sad part, is when you do have the talent and you really believe that hard work is going to get you there, it's a lie. It's such a lie. And then you have all these acting classes telling you.
I was just thinking that you got to invest thousands and
thousands of dollars.
Change your appearance.
Yeah, you've got to be polite. You've got to be this. I'm like, somebody tell some of the producers who are snorting cocaine or, something up a child's ass that's being polite. Stop. Yeah. Stop the lies. It's not about being polite. The whole construct of it is pure evil. And the thing is, it fucks with your head so much because the dreamer in you just wants to create art. You genuinely want to create art, which is beautiful. A beautiful vase is art. Architecture is art. Divine creation is divine creation. Yeah. So there are some incredible movies that are out there which have literally changed the world in a good way. Yeah. But there's also a lot that has been manipulated over time to make us think a certain way. So I think it's really important for people to start seeing some of those nuances. The way the cabal works is they pepper it among. It's not like everyone on the left is cabal, everyone on the right is not. It's cake mix. Try and separate cake mix.
That's a great way of putting it, because that is the art of making a cake. If you don't have all the right ingredients, it's not going to come out right.
Correct. And you can't, this is like my husband actually he's the one that really talks about the cake mix. He says, try and separate all the ingredients you put in a cake mix. Try and unseparate that. It's impossible. This is what we're dealing with right now. That's why it's taking so long. So people who want this buttoned up in a nice, pretty bow, you need to wake up. That's not going to happen this way. It didn't take a day to get into this mess. It's not going to it's happening much quicker, the awakening, which is a beautiful thing, right? Because the divine energy is really taking over. But going back to Hollywood, not everyone's bad. Not everybody is bought. Do people have handlers? Absolutely. Are arranged marriages happening? Absolutely.
Just like in the movies.
Just like in the movies. So going back to 2020. So this person, I became good friends with her, but I was always watching. I always watched myself. You have to.
Listening to your intuition.
Yes. And I could tell that she was really wanting somebody just to talk to her just as a human being. I could feel that. Yeah. And we had a lot in common. We had a lot in common about the art, about the expression of the art. Like we could talk in a language that was very familiar. Take the business out of it. We were artists. We had that
Yeah.
compassion, and we also had a certain skill level.
Mhm.
Now, come 2020 shutdown and all that, I said something doesn't feel right. And then I remember she invited me. This is before 2020. This is in 2019. She invited me to go to um to join her and her family in Hawaii because I think
Mhm.
she just needed a play date for her kid, to be honest. So I was
Gotcha.
like, I didn't want to go at first, but I also didn't have the money to go. I just didn't want to spend the money on that, right? And so she invited me, and I was like, I really thought about it. I was like, do I go? I didn't feel like there was going to be like, it's not going to be like Epstein Island. Like, I didn't feel that. That was not that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was
No.
like, I don't like people paying for me. I really don't. Like, especially a celebrity. I was like, So I knew that I
I don't
thought,
need to be your charity.
no. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay. She said, look, I have the ticket. It's totally up to you. You can, bring your husband. And he's like, I'm not going. And I said, yeah, I agree. He goes, you go, take our daughter. And I thought it would be nice for the daughter because we couldn't give her a holiday. And I thought, you know what? It's okay. But what I did was I made sure I took beautiful presents. I took beautiful gifts. I wanted to make sure
Yeah. That's
I
the way
got
it should
it
really
should be.
be.
And I got very meaningful gifts for everybody. And I didn't want it to look like I was taking. And you know, I stayed out of their way when needed and all this stuff. But I remember a conversation we had. It was just the two of us. The kids were playing, having a blast.
Good.
But there was a conversation about the business. And I won't
Mm.
go into every detail, but what I can say is this. She started asking me about my career. And
Do you think she was trying to groom you to see where you stand, to see if you could get into the club?
I think she was trying to see where I was because she's
Mm-hmm.
actually very insecure in person,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
very insecure, not the image that she's portrayed publicly. So
Mm-hmm.
I think she saw a certain compassion in me that I just didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. I
I
was,
love it. That's what I love about you.
and
You're
I
my
could
people.
see, I could see her kind of almost trying to crawl out of her own skin because
Uh,
she was, I think she couldn't say a lot of things. And then I remember she said, why are you at X place in your career, blah, 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 blah. And do you want that? And without even thinking about
mm,
it, and I realized that it was hitting her in a place where I think she was trapped. She said to me, I said to her, I said, well, I said, I do admire, and I was being respectful because at the end of the day, I'm,
you're still friends.
I'm in her villa, like I'm in her
Yeah.
guest villa, and I'm just, I
I
know
don't
I'm
want
not.
to get my neck slit or anything in the room next to me. No, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna like sit here and and insult the woman. And I'm like, where's my guns? Where am I?
Yeah.
I'm home, right? So
Yeah.
I have to be careful. That's why some of these truthers out there who say, oh, everybody should just say everything at every point, at every time. You haven't been among enough dangerous people. I'm not saying she was dangerous per se, but the people she's probably around are.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
haven't been enough um, situations in war
Yeah.
or in social elite circles where your life's in danger. Yeah, you kind of do have to watch what you say
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
because they can take you out very quickly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did say to her, I said, well, I'm not willing, and I was never willing to play the game. And she just kind of looked at me like, I said, yeah, I said, fuck that. I ain't playing no game. I said, I'm not playing a game where they're telling me what to do, where to go. And I said, no. And I said, I wanted to be a mom. I said, you can't be a mother. And I was being
Oh,
respectful because I knew she had a kid. And I didn't want to sound like a total ass, right? I
like
said,
to her, be like,
yeah, right.
yeah.
And I could
That's
see
not
she
nice.
was, and the thing is I could see she was struggling. I could see she was
Mm.
terrified. So that's when I started to go, ooh, something else is going on here. And then she did tell me she doesn't do her social media. And I was like,
I don't
Then
think any of them really do. It all has to go through their
she handlers. So her
handlers.
handlers were doing it. And then she said something which really struck me. And my mom, who I had not told I was friends with this person, said something to me one day. She
What?
said she lives on the East Coast and I was obviously on the West Coast. And she said something to me one day. She goes, oh, don't let my daughter out of your sight because you're gonna go. I finally did tell her I was friends with this person. We went to a VIP Disney like opening of Star Wars. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll never probably get to do that again. And I thought I felt safe enough. So we did that too. I only did a few things. And then I was like, she would invite me and I'd say, no, thank you. It's fine. Thank you very much, though. I just didn't want to get sucked into that circle. I knew enough to not do that. And anyway, my mom would go, don't let my daughter out of your sight. Da, 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 da. And I was like, why? She goes, what if they kidnap the wrong kid? And I went, oh my gosh, oh my God. And I had
So your mom even kind of knew.
My mom has a lot of intuition. She may be not awake, but she has certain
Oh.
intuition, and she'll just blip something out that's really truthful. And so I was like, I said, stop. She goes, don't let her out of your sight. And I went, now I was like super paranoid. So let me tell you a little something from, not now, but at the time when the girls were younger, from the back, my daughter and her daughter both look the same. And then I just went,
oh.
And then I thought, is she friends with me? Because she would always talk about her daughter being kidnapped and about somebody coming into the house to take her.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, is she?
Sarah.
Then I thought, is she friends with me because maybe they'll take the wrong kid? No, seriously,
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
I would feel the same way. I get it. I shared my little stuff with you. I get what you're talking about.
And so I don't undermine any of this. And then I thought, that's it. That's when I started to pull away, because when we went out in public, I made sure that both of the kids, because I'm very protective of, I'm very
Any kids.
any kid, made sure they never left my side. And I would notice there was an extra paranoia with her and her kid. And I thought, ooh. And then I remember we were having a conversation with them, my family, her family, our immediate family, we were sitting down having a lovely conversation. And I said, why don't you leave the industry? Oh, no, 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 no. And even the husband, no, 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 no. I said, why? We'll just leave. Like, just take your money.
No big deal. It's another career. Move on to another career.
That's when I knew something deeper was going on, because she said then, and so did the husband in many, many ways.
She can't.
She said, my hands are tied behind me, but my back, and I cannot. And I felt this absolute just sadness and dread in my gut. And I thought, I need to stop now. And then when 2020 happened, I went to her house because everywhere was shut down in LA, but we never played that game. Me and my Patriot mamas, we were like, fuck this. We're going to the beach. We're going to do this. We got together.
We're going to go ground our feet on the ground.
Yeah, we're going to go run barefoot through the grass and through the sand.
Climb some trees and pick some flowers and make some sand castles.
Like, we had a whole big fun. But anyway, so she goes, would you like to come over? Because, her daughter wanted to play and wanted to see. And I said, okay, that's fine. I remember everything was shut down. This was fresh off the boat, bullshit pandemic lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was on edge. I said, okay. I said, but listen, I need to just tell you something. I ain't playing that mask bullshit.
Especially at the beach of all places.
No, we were in her house. We were going to her house.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So this was separate. No, she wasn't with my
okay. Gotcha.
Those were my Patriot mamas. So I said, okay, I'm coming. I said, but you remember, I ain't playing this game. And I told her flat out, I'm not putting a mask on, and neither is my kid. I said, you still want me to come over?
Kid.
I said, do you want me to come over? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, I get it. I said, okay, fine.
I already know what you're going to say. Okay, I want to see if I'm right.
Oh, so we get there, right? And her nanny answers the door. She was only 26, super young. And she's standing there with a bottle of Purell. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not putting a fucking Purell on my hands. She goes,
that chemical shit.
And she had a mask on, and she goes, and I started laughing. I couldn't help it. And she goes, oh.
Good for you.
I'm terrible. I'm awful. So she answers, and the only reason I'm telling you her color is because it will make sense. So she's a sweet young girl. She's 20.
Yeah.
She's again, like
still learning and
I probably doesn't know anything, right? And they get the ones they don't know anything. So to the door, I'm like, and she got her mask on. I go, oh, here we go. And then she goes, oh, hi. I said, hi, how you doing? So and so. And she goes, hi. And she goes, yeah, and she's white, and her mom is white, but they adopted like, and like she has mixed family and she has like some little black kids and she goes, oh, I was just at the BLM protest. And I just started laughing. I go, wait a minute, are you supposed to be sequestering at home? You're not supposed to be out at some protest. Like,
Another
what you
label
doing
they try to
here?
keep in the mainstream that we
Oh,
really want, instead of like, how long ago was that? Oh God.
oh my God. And so all protests were not supposed to happen then. And I go, wait, aren't you? So I said to her, I said, are you supposed to be at home? You're not supposed to be out. You're supposed to be going home and staying sequestered. And she went, oh, well, you know. And then she goes, can you please sanitize your hands? I said, I ain't doing that. I go, I'll go wash my hands, but I'm not putting that shit
Oh,
on me.
shit.
And she
So it
looked
can
at me like,
stink in my skin and stay there all day.
oh my, it was like a comedy of errors. So we go in the house, we go in the kitchen, right? And I see the lady,
Yeah,
and
Hollywood
I'm
lady.
going, hey, how you doing? And she goes, yeah, fist bump, fist bump. And I went, mm-hmm. So she had this huge island. She's standing on the other side of her, and her husband's in the back. He goes, hey, how you doing, Sarah? I said, hey, how you doing? And then she's got
What?
her mask like this on.
Sideways?
I was like, I go, what
So
are
it
you
wasn't even
doing?
on her face, or was on her
No,
face?
she's like, yeah, fist bump. And I'm like, she did not want to have that thing on.
Who did?
What are you doing? What are you doing? And she's like, oh yeah, and then her daughter comes down and she's like, so and so, put your mask on, put your mask on. She goes, but I don't want it, Mom. I don't want it on my face.
Oh, do you
It
blame her
was,
kid saying that?
yeah, yeah, I don't want to put it on. And then the lady just went, okay, fine, fine. And within 2 minutes, my daughter and her daughter, she threw it on the floor and they went and
Good.
played and played. But let me
Good.
tell you what was really fucked up. She's standing there in her kitchen. Her housekeeper is there. Her trainer is there. Things are happening. And I'm standing there going, how many fucking businesses were shut down? How many people lost their livelihood?
Oh, I know
And
plenty
yet
of people that did.
these motherfuckers are normal as anything, right?
Mhm.
And then she's pretending she's like, oh yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry. I said, I'm
No,
sorry.
even at the like everything on the shows, you saw them all taking off their masks. It's like rules for you, and as soon as they're done, their news clips or whatever, they're like, because we knew they
So
weren't doing it.
crazy. And I said, excuse me, but would it make you more comfortable to go sit in the garden? Is that what you want to do? Oh yeah, let's go sit in the garden. I'm like, get me out of here. I'm thinking,
Oh,
how
God.
long does my girl want to play? All right. And I was there for a few hours and I'm going, help me now, help me now. And then she starts telling me, oh, oh yeah. And she knew. She slipped it out.
What?
I think she was terrified of me because she knew my homie don't play that game. She
Mm-hmm.
flipped it out when the jibby jab was coming out, when she was gonna take it, and it was way down when nobody
Oh,
knew. And I was like, really?
I
Yeah.
love that you listen and you have your listening ears on.
And it was hilarious. So 2 weeks later, and she said a lot of stuff in that meeting where I went, oh, oh, oh. And she would even test me. She would send me, she goes, do you think this is real? And I'd send her, I said, oh my gosh, I was just about to send you that. Her handlers were checking me out for sure. So then
Ah.
2 weeks later, oh boy, on the TV, I see her in a public service announcement. I was like,
You freaking hypocrite.
lying sack of shit. She was probably told, maybe held at gunpoint. I don't know. Maybe they threatened to take her kid again. I don't know. But she was on there telling everybody they had to get the jab when it came out. Then they had to mask up. Then they couldn't get together. You got to stay segregated. You got to stay in your home.
That means
It was
separated, so
disgusting.
you can't talk to each other and put the
Correct.
pieces together.
That's right. And also, the 666 and all the six, it's all bullshit, right? It's all
Yeah.
satanic coding to sever the divine energy between people and all of that stuff. So I was so disgusted with that. And then she tells me she's going to Hawaii. This was
Hmm.
again, she was going for a break. I was like, a break, please cut me some slack. And
Right.
that's when Gavin Newscomb had just been busted at the French Laundry with all those health people, and they weren't wearing
Oh,
masks. I said, and she was,
I
they were
remember
going,
that
you remember
now. It
that?
seems
And
so long ago.
so long
Forgot.
ago. So they were also going to Hawaii, and she was gonna, oh, she goes, oh yeah, I have to go because we're gonna go stay in a nice hotel. And I was like, ew, why are you saying that? People are literally dying and
Losing their
losing their
businesses.
businesses,
Yep.
and they are watching their loved ones die alone, right?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, and I told
Ah.
her, I said, Newscomb. I said, look at Newscomb. I said, oh, it's oh very nice. Newscomb and his little band of banshees get to go to Hawaii.
Oh, a bunch of
And then you
freaking fakes. They freak. Ah,
so Faith, and then she went to go too, and I thought, oh, well, have a nice time. Oh, she goes, oh yeah, 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 I'm gonna. And then after that, I severed my ties with her because what I didn't want, I did not want to be pulled in and end up on the bloody news with her. You know what I'm saying? I did not want that.
yeah.
I severed all ties. I kept what I needed
Good
to keep,
job.
and I severed it. But she knew the jig was up. She knew I knew everything. She knew I knew it all, and she was terrified to face me. So, so
That's my girl. I love it.
she was terrified, and so she surrounded herself with all the people she said she didn't like because they were dumb and they were star effers, so they wanted to be around her, but real genuine
Mm.
people that actually probably could have had her back. Although she made a deal of some kind with all her
Yep.
languaging and security and all the things she spoke about, all the little drips that she gave me.
Hmm.
There's no way she was operating by herself. And I noticed
That
because
makes sense. That's
she
common sense.
she was pushing all the BLM bullshit, and I noticed her Instagram like went, it got higher in 3 years. It went up 3 million.
Because she's brainwashing everyone to do as I say.
That's right.
That's the
It was
art of war.
disgusting. It
That's
is
how
not.
that's acting. They were acting to show people because people put all these people on a pedestal because they think they're so great when they're really like everyday people like the rest of us.
That's
And
right.
that's part of the system. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you.
Thank you. It was you know
Holy
what, when I
crap,
left,
though.
it was bittersweet. I never liked the business, and there's obviously we know why, right?
Mm,
And I remember going to CAA. Ooh. I went to CAA, which is okay. So CAA for your audience is a probably one of the premier agencies for actors, singers, directors, producers, speakers, and all that. They're the top one.
Are
Well,
they a Rothschild company? Because now that I've looked at a lot of entertainment companies, a lot of the music is actually owned by a lot of the
yeah,
Rothschild and
and
the
Rothschilds and there's many other
yep.
uh
All people, we all have the same tools. Just go
yeah,
look it up,
that's right.
people.
That's right.
Mhm.
And a lot of the elite, the elite families whose names most people would never ever know. Even
Mhm.
I don't know, even the ones even above them, because there's
Mhm.
layers to this, right? And
Mhm.
so what's interesting is I would go in CAA, and she was part of CAA, and so were a couple of other people I knew. And CAA, which is Creative Artist Agency, again,
Mhm.
tying it all back to CIA, that's where their headquarters is in Los Angeles.
Shut up.
Yeah, so when you look above on CAA, like you look on an
Mhm.
aerial view of the building, it
Mhm.
is all the symbols of the,
I believe it. Oh my gosh, Sarah, can I add a few things here that I just took
ah,
notes because you just got like my
your
mind.
brain flowing.
Oh, I love these conversations. That's why we got to have people join our divine numbers and theories because this is the stuff we like to talk about. And there's no bashing. I'm setting the tone right away.
Right.
But I digress. It's crazy you're talking about this because one thing I heard is when we had to wear all the masks. I mean, think about this is what I share with people. I'm like, think of it as being one giant spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got people sitting on the park benches and this and that. Like I think about that and I know I pay attention to my surroundings and people just don't understand that they put those movies in so much of our movies so that when the truth is told, people
You
will
say it's just
understand
a
there were
movie.
good guys and there were bad guys.
That's right.
And literally the good guys were trying to protect us. And what I heard was that part of the reason of the mask was also so that a lot of the good guys could also get shit done in the back end.
100%.
Like, think about it. When we have our snipers and all that, what are they wearing? They're wearing masks over
Yes,
their
right,
face and
right.
stuff. So I'm like,
It's
genius, the art
it's genius.
of war. Like,
It
this
is
is
the art war. And you know, to add on to what you're saying, this is so important to hone into whoever, watches this, is you have to understand there's good and there's bad happening at the same time, right? Like what Sharon's saying is there were so many military operations happening during this time, which is
Yep.
also another reason for shutting down for a certain period of time.
Like, how many years? That's a long time.
Yeah,
So
and
it was, you think about that, that's deep stuff.
and what's interesting is when I hear even truthers that I know, friends of mine, I just don't get into it with them because I love them, but they're on the
Yeah,
bandwagon, whatever.
I
But when
get
they
it.
go, well, I have issue with Trump because he pushed the vaccine. I said, no, he didn't. He did not push it. And then I go into the reasons why. And then one of the things that he said, we saved billions of lives. The reason he says that is because they wanted to shut us down until 2030. They wanted to shut us down for 12 years.
Holy fuck balls.
And so
Excuse
if
my
they had
language.
shut them down, if they had shut us down,
We all would have been like this.
most of us would be gone. Okay.
I agree. I agree.
And also he was working. This is another thing that even some of my dear friends don't get this. Vaccine can be two things. It can be the bioweapons. It can also be therapeutics, people.
That's my theory, where people are like, why is he talking about another shot? I believe in the art of war, that what he's talking about is for the future or in the near future. So think about it. There's so many people that are sick right now all over the world. Not everyone can get into a med bed. And for my viewers, just go look up Tesla med beds. The locations are popping up everywhere. Even RFK Jr. speaks of them. It heals cancers and so forth. I have to say, that is my belief, because,
and I can validate that with certain intelligence that
yeah,
I know
yeah.
firsthand.
Thank you.
There are 4 different kinds, and yes, they do exist. And
I love it. That's why they put them in the movies, like in the
that's
movie
right.
Elysium with Matt Damon.
Yes.
That is a movie I've had in the back of my head even before this happened. Now I realize why, because they're showing you that
They're showing you everything.
The elite people
They do
get
it.
access to these med beds. So that was the whole story of with Matt Damon. And I encourage everyone to go back and look at the symbolism of the art of war, because there was this mom whose daughter was sick. Do you remember that? And so they're literally, so let's say that we were the people in 2030 that, like, literally the land became desolate and you had to fight for food. And like, that's why they make so many movies about this. But the goal was, a lot of people were trying to get to this other new world where they had the technology so they could heal their children's bodies. That shit's real. And those are the elite people that live there, and they're living on this lush ground, and they have little park benches and all of that. It's exactly what they wanted to do to us. But my point is I believe that when he talks about this, is you can't get everyone into a med bed once the truth is told very soon to everyone what's been happening. So I think he's referencing a new type of shot that is going to kill cancer. Yes, because those are real.
And they were creating something that was not with all the crap in it, right? It was like
duality,
with hydroxychloroquine. And even in 2020, when you see, you would understand this, but for a lot of people out there, they still don't understand. Sometimes when somebody, like, let's say Trump, right? He says something, he sees what the reaction is to see where people are at. That is a strategy of war too. So what he said at the time, and look how people were in 2020 versus today. It's a big shift that's happened in the last 4 years, right? Because when he said hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and he even talked about certain other therapeutics, they laughed. Not the truthers, but a lot of people in mainstream laughed him off. That you could be okay.
So you could brainwash the rest of it. Exactly.
Right. And then now people aren't laughing. Now it takes time to get people to wake up and get used to a new way of thinking, because it's shocking to the system. That's why you can't wake everybody up at the same time, because it is shocking to the system. People would probably have an aneurysm, die of a heart attack. You've got to layer it on.
Layers,
Drip, drip,
levels,
drip,
just like,
right?
and you know, one thing I wanted to add to this, because I feel like it will help people understand the art of war, is they already pre-programmed our minds through our entertainment. So you already have your little, you know, on your phones, on Facebook, you have your little avatars and you pick your eye color and all that. Same thing within the movies. They all have their certain levels and so
Oh,
forth.
you're going to love this.
They it's a program
It is a
within
program.
a program.
Okay, so you're going to love this. I'm sure if you've thought of this, then you'll understand. But for your audience, okay. I love watching disaster movies. I do.
I do too. I do.
It's so crazy, right? And you're like, oh my gosh. And I love watching, like, you know, when the world comes together because something terrible has happened and humanity wins, kind of a thing. But think about it. In all of the disaster movies, or where there's an outbreak of something,
just like the movie Outbreak,
right? Outbreak.
in your face, 150.
So this is for your audience. What is and I'll tell you the answer. What is the hero of the movie? Think about every single virus movie, zombie movie, World War Z and all that. Who is the hero of the movie? Think about how long these movies have been made, for decades, right?
Yeah.
So ready? The hero of the movie are the vaccines.
I agree. Yes.
That's
like
how
Kingsman, like Kingsman
you.
with Samuel Jackson. Remember that? They're giving stuff away for free because there's shit in it. They put that nano mRNA bullshit and stuff. Same thing with the phones. That one was brilliant. I'm like, oh my gosh, I see all the signs and symbolism in it.
That was
so
crazy.
So they use
the hero is always the jab, because that's going to save
duality too.
The duality, right? And then in 2020, when all this stuff was coming out, you realize that every single movie you've seen is a disclosure of some kind or another. If you tell somebody who's a normie or somebody who thinks you're crazy,
I'm
what
like,
did they say?
at this point, I'm like,
it's just a movie. It's just a movie. That's how they did it. It's just a movie.
Or it's just beautiful. I mean,
right? It's like,
it's beautiful. And that's what people say when it comes to a movie. It's like, oh my gosh, that was beautifully scripted. And people don't even realize it's really playing out.
Well, you remember that movie that just came out? Oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm not good with names sometimes. That movie that came out with Julia Roberts, the one where, you know.
Oh, the Obamas backed it, right?
Yes.
The end of the world or something?
Yeah, something tomorrow or something. Yeah. But you know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The classic scene, which was so brilliantly done, I might say.
I didn't watch it.
Is when they're sitting on the beach. They go for a lovely day to the beach. They don't realize the rest of the world has shut down.
Oh.
Are
you going to give away the ending? Go for it.
No, it's not going to ruin the ending.
Okay.
So they go to the beach, you know, Julia Roberts and the husband and the kids, and they're sitting there on the beach. This is where a lot of people are at. Not as badly as it was in 2020, but there's still a lot of people who are here. They're sitting on the beach, they're doing the picnic and all that, and they're looking out at the ocean, and they see something and they're going like this, right? And they don't know what it is. And then they're looking at it and they go, oh. And then it gets closer and closer and closer, and you realize it is a massive barge, like a ship like those containers are on. And it's
like the one that Trump brought into New York when it first came out, and Cuomo refused it.
That's right. So it's huge. It's like this huge container ship coming towards the beach. And it is so close where it actually hits the beach. And the family is still going, I don't know what's happening. What is that? And you're like, are you serious? And they're still sitting there going, it's in your face. And you're still going, what is that? Oh, that is so symbolic.
I agree.
How people are. It's like it's too late, and you're still sitting there, and it's right in your face.
Yeah.
That was a genius scene, and it's
I
Genius.
love this conversation because the uniqueness of entertainment is, and it's just like people staring at a freaking splattered paint at an art gallery, which we already know what art galleries really do behind the scene. They made a show about that with Christina Applegate. What was it called? And the boyfriend was using it as a front to do all kinds of bad things. There's like a ton of them out here in Park City, and they got hot dogs in the windows and rabbits. And I'm like, I see you all.
Oh
I
my God.
see more than the average person, like literally. The not this past fall, the fall before, there was a bar called Rockwell, Blood Red, this tiny, right on Main Street where they walk up for Sundance Film Festival. And you know what that stands for right off the bat. It's Blood Red. It's Rockwell, like the Rockefellers and all those other guys. But what I noticed, see, the average person doesn't notice these things. I noticed last fall, not this past fall, the fall before, they painted it white and they changed the name. You know what that means. They're like, game's over, bye-bye.
I love it.
Because out here, they have Sundance Film Festival. They had the Olympics, which we all know what happens during those big type of games, the bad
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And also, it is a 1%er community out in the world's greatest snow. That's their tagline out here, the world's greatest snow and all that. Like, I'm like going along, going, take a note, putting it into gematria, my numerology. I'm like, I'm on to all of you. But I gotta tell you, the energy out here feels way better. When I first moved out here, I'm not gonna lie, it was the way I like to explain it is when I lived in New Hampshire, I didn't visit Maine a lot, and the Bush family lives out in Kennebunkport, Maine. I was clueless to what was going on, but Glenn even remembers this. In Central Casting, you can go back and look at my videos because they had cameras everywhere. So I'm all excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're at the Bush complex. This is so cool. So like we get out of the car and you know you're being watched on camera. And I walk out onto the grassy area. I mean, their house is right on the water. And I remember sitting there and I remember telling Glenn, I'm like, something ain't right here. I want to go. And it was that, and I feel like a lot of intuitive and spiritual people know this feeling that I'm talking about. And the only way I can explain it is like it's dead energy. Even though it looks beautiful, it feels like there's no energy, life force. It's hard to explain. And then when I started awakening, I started recognizing that same feeling when I traveled to to Bermuda and Puerto Rico and all these other places and in the big cities like Chicago. I'm like, there you go. I just connected the dots for everyone because those are all the hub areas of where this evil stuff is going. And people need to realize that literally everything's connected. When you look at the same street names and everything in every state and every city, those aren't for us. You get what I'm saying?
I totally.
It is the underlying stuff that the evil and the white hats both know. It's like there are certain areas you just can't step over and certain boundaries and so forth.
So I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
You know, when Trump talks about we're going to make Washington D.C. beautiful again. When he talks, have you heard? He talks about
Vaguely.
he goes, oh, it's going to be beautiful. He goes, it's going to be different.
Oh,
What does he mean by that?
I think I know.
Because I'm excited to know what
Okay.
he means by that.
Don't laugh. My first gut is
Yeah.
like, they're gonna show people. Because I'm a firm believer in Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, I like I said when we talked earlier before this, I was brought up Catholic and all that, and then I just went more the spiritual route. I'm like, none of this makes sense. I believe that they took so much out, you can't put the piece together. But I believe in the history and the parables, and people can use gematria for all that.
Right.
But I see Godlike Productions has a good sense of humor. When he says beautiful, I think he means we're going to show you how we're going to annihilate all of evil. I really do. Because my own personal feeling is when you really have these evil structures and bad things underneath, and people that are watching this, they're down the road who are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so awful. I can't believe she'd say that. Please do your research first and then come back to this video because you'll be like the rest of us. And what I mean is, I don't want to be around those type of structures and
Mhm.
just always think about all the horrific things. So I just think Team Jesus is going to be like the
Yes,
gallows. I think that's going to be
yes,
beautiful. It's going to be, it's no different than all of our movies, like
that's right.
with what's his name, Russell Crowe. What was that big one? Where
Gladiator.
Gladiator? How
Yeah,
people need to realize that they're using that to show you that
yeah,
you're an example of those people in the audience because you're
yes,
getting paid bread because your
that's right.
family's hungry and you're like, yeah, kill each other. Yeah, yeah. They don't even realize that that's
So
what's
true.
happening on a different level with people butting up against each other. Because if our leaders are fighting, your leaders are showing people how to fight. It's that
Yeah,
simple. So
100%.
let's come together and just let's start taking care of the people that are suffering. And like, I have really great friends that in the spiritual community that literally we have a different view on things. They're on the other side. But you know what? And sometimes we're able to say things and we're like, okay, it's good, cool, thanks for sharing. But you know what I mean? But I
No,
have like
totally. Well,
when we're on a mission.
I think too, to even like it, we have to, everything has to be dissected. Like we
Yeah.
can't just say that we're open to the truth and then be so protective over some religious thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like the structures of the religion. I'm not talking about faith because I there's a huge
Yeah.
difference between religious and faith. And people who,
Absolutely.
right? And people who do certain spiritual practices, absolutely. Like it has to be coming from the right
Hmm.
place, right? The divine
Yes.
place.
Absolutely.
And to your audience too, you've probably talked about this before. When you see these people getting up there in the Oscars or whatever and like thanking their God, there's that might not be the divine God. They're thanking their little G's, right? Their little G's. So just because some of these people say, "Oh, thank God," which God?
It's like
So,
homonyms, like what I was saying earlier.
and
And
look
you
at
know
the
what?
shape of the statue. I mean, come on, people.
And thank you for bringing that up because this is a great example. And I say this a lot in my podcast, but it's like people need to hear it a certain amount of time, just like part of the program. And then people start actually going, oh, I heard that before. That's why they say it in the movies. Is when I moved out here to Utah, it's Mormon country.
Yeah.
And I had quite a few people. I'm like you. People were like, "Ooh, you can't wear that around the Mormons," and "Oh, you can't drink wine. You can't smoke pot." Ba, 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 ba. Yet all of them are going to the freaking Happy Valley down here,
Right.
popping their freaking synthetic, disgusting Ponzi scheme, freaking pharmaceuticals to numb. Because I believe that everyone that belongs to the church means well. But what
Yes.
I don't feel like they understand is that I started interviewing a lot of people. They can check out my channel, Sharon the Red Baron, on YouTube. That was my goal. I wanted to interview people on why they left the Mormon church. And when you hear these stories, and many of them have become good friends of mine, and what my point is many of them were sexually abused. When you hear the stuff that they do, I mean, they pump so much into them to do this. That's why the church calls them servants of God. Now, connect this is there are articles out there that speak of Klaus Schwab and Soros talking about Salt Lake City being the fourth revolutionary area. I can't remember if it was the country or the world. So it's a smart city. My point is I can see right through the script. When they were going to take everyone down, you got all these people that are Mormons who were going to be their servants because
Wow.
they are so groomed to do exactly what they say and do not ask
Compliant.
questions.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
now I want to get your take. Why do you think that they wanted a lot of these Mormon families to have a lot of children?
To
What
create more slaves.
what else?
Mm,
I
there's,
want to share with the audience. Are you ready for this?
yeah, go on then.
And I couldn't believe a lot of people didn't even pick up on this. Sarah, when I tell you this, remember homonyms,
Yes.
they call a lot of their structures steakhouses and wards. I don't know about you, but when I think of those two, when you hear of human trafficking and all the sexual ritual abuse and all that, I'm like, ooh. And then you
Oh
think of a ward.
gosh.
I don't think good things when I think of a ward, but that's how arrogant they were. They were
Like
putting it
ward
in,
as in WARD?
like, as in a psych ward.
Okay,
I
because
mean, they could have picked any word in the.
well, going back to, okay, I'm not sure
Do
if
you
you
see where I'm going with that?
oh, I totally see, because so for your
Mhm.
audience too, maybe you've spoken about this in the past, and I'll very, very surface level.
Yeah, yeah.
The word ward, we are all ruled in the whole entire earth currently under admiralty law language. Every single law that has been created on earth today, going back to really at least a good 150 years, even before that. We're talking about, it's a language called, it's called passe syntax, which is the meaning of words. And the reason why everything has been so confused is because the real language is you say what you mean and you mean what you say.
Mhm.
But our whole entire language is covered in the opposite of what you're actually saying. So ward, going back to what Sharon was saying about ward, maternity ward, psych ward, you belong to the state. You
A
belong
system.
to the governing energies,
And
not
you're not free.
correct. You are in a global
Yeah.
slavery system. That's why it's called a maternity ward. Mothers don't belong to their children. Children don't belong to their mothers. That's why it's called maternity ward, ward of the state. So interesting that
When I,
ward.
yes, but that, do you see the connection? I'm
Yeah,
like, holy shit. Like I heard, and when I say this for people that are watching that are still in the church, I don't mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to
no,
awaken you, because what I've learned is so many of these people, their generations have been in this religion. It's just like being brought up by your own parents, where
yeah.
you're just taught what is what you do. And
Yeah,
for
you're taught
me,
what you live and what you've been role modeled.
exactly. So then the ego comes in and they'll fight you tooth and nail that they're right. But my point is there is a woman on TikTok, and I
Mm.
encourage the viewers to look her up in the future. But what she does is she discloses a lot of all of these rules and so forth of the Mormon church. And
Oh,
she
wow.
gets into a lot of things. And when you listen to her, and she documents everything very well, it's actually very creepy. It's very creepy. And one perfect example is, how can I explain this? I'll be really quick when I explain this, though. Oh, for instance, a lot of people in the interviews were telling me that when they were between the ages of like 10 to 13, when they'd go in for their quote unquote confession, I don't know the Mormon term, but they would ask the kids, especially the boys, if they masturbate. Why would your church need to know that? They're looking to groom,
Terrible.
just like in Hollywood, right?
And by the way, that actress that I told you about,
Mm.
she asked me if I was teaching that to my kid. Why would you say that? And
She was asking if
they were
if you were teaching
10
it
and 11 at the time.
about masturbation.
Like I said, excuse me? And they go,
That's
yeah,
creepy.
are you going to teach that to, I was like, no, not
First off,
appropriate.
that's even creepy to ask.
I was
But
like,
there you
why
go.
would you? But then again, knowing the agenda, right? Distort the sacred sexuality, distort it,
Groom it.
confuse it,
Yep.
interrupt the sacred passage of the biology of childhood, right?
Yep. Yep.
Everything has been about desecrating the sacredness of childhood, which is why
Isn't
I'm
it
very protective
so?
of
Oh, me too. I don't care. I even stood up my daughter's senior year in high school. Unfortunately, she wanted nothing to do with me, because she thought I was a crazy conspiracy theorist, and she was groomed by the media and her friends. She wanted to take the jabby jab, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Like, maybe you'll thank me someday, but One thing I noticed, Sarah, and I document everything. That's one thing. Like I
Yes,
say this
good.
a lot, is Space Force must love me. I got thousands of backups on my phone because I'm like,
Mhm.
did I just see that? But my point is I documented 3 times. So the school was bringing the parents up to the podium, separating them because they see how they normalize things. They're already separating people into
Was this here on
groups.
the East Coast?
This was on the East Coast, but my point is they're already separating people into groups without, we're just thinking it's something we were taught in school. No, they're already separating you, but they were separating the parents who was for masks, who was against masks. And here I am out here. It was live, and I'm like, oh, giving away your parental rights. You don't even have to wear a mask. I'm like, you pay them. It's against your constitution. So of course, the talk of the town was like, Aaron's crazy, Miss Flake, crazy. But this is the creepy part, Sarah. 3 times, and I documented it. The exact minute and second mark. And not one parent caught on to it. Would the next customer, like the parents, they were starting to call them customers. And like, did you fucking hear that? You're all fucking
Wow.
customer. And excuse my language, but that's how pissed I was. I'm like, did anyone even catch that? My point is, that's how they normalize brainwashing to people, that eventually they're going to keep calling them customers. I'm like, you're no longer parents. Thank you.
That's the twist of every regime, communist regime,
Bet
socialist
it.
regime. The first thing they do is to change the language.
Yes.
They have to.
Yep.
That's why with this whole BS trans hijacking
Yep.
of language is to confuse you, to tell you there's 100 genders, is to call you a birthing person and all that bollocks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? And I'm thinking this in the back of my head. I'm like, there's going to come a day that all you that mocked me, that laughed behind my back, and were all like, all the Karens, like, I'll be like, yeah, I was doing your freaking job because you weren't smart enough to pick up on any of this. So you're welcome. That's what I say.
Exactly. No, good for you.
And
And you know
just
what?
like you
I
and the
just want to
rest of us.
say thank you for being outspoken with this stuff because it is
Well,
so
thank you.
easy to demonize and make fun of people that actually do stand. Now, I'm not talking about those crazy nut leftists that you see screaming all the time on TV because they're
Mm-hmm.
not really, they're just
Become a
speaking.
transgender. Become a transgender. That's way more important than the whole
Yeah.
world falling apart.
Like the world's on fire and you just want to focus on that. Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
So, because I have a dear friend of mine. She's amazing. She's a traditional homeopath is one of her skills.
Ooh.
She's also a
Oh,
great
I would love to
mom too.
interview her.
Yeah,
Some common things for people to learn,
she's
microdosing.
fantastic. Yeah, she's fantastic, and she also is incredibly sovereign. She's really one of the few sovereign women and people that I know, and I can see that is the same spirit with you. She has absolutely gives no shits about trying to impress anybody. She
Yep.
comes from a place of understanding her own being
I love it.
and being able to look through that filter. And
Yeah.
one of the things that she talked about, and we've talked about for years, is that sometimes a necessary response as a human being is warranted and it may not look pretty. It may
Mm-hmm.
not look pretty. And I think this idea is watching how people have emotionally responded when they see geopolitical stuff happening. It's
Yep.
like, wait, you're acting insane. But if somebody who's actually having a real human response is doing that, oh my gosh, they're so controversial.
I do want to, I want to set for the record, I have nothing against transgender people
Oh, me
whatsoever.
neither. I have
I
friends who
just
are
want to say I
transgender.
have a problem with them wanting to normalize and brainwash our
And
youth because they can't even
they
freaking
can't.
tie their shoes.
And by the
That's
way, for your audience, uh, the reason why they went after the Black community, the gay community, and the trans community is they needed to hijack it and they needed to make it almost, and they do it for Jews and Muslims or whatever, like they
separation
make it
too.
impossible. Yes, they make it impossible for the people to say anything bad of it because then they can call you a phobist, right? So that's how they do it. They pick a cause, like in Europe, it's class, right? That's how they did it
Mm.
with class. But in America, because there's no class system here, technically, there's no
Mm-hmm.
class system here. They did it with a cause. So if you said something about a black person, you're a racist. If you said something about a trans person, you're a transphobic. So it's all bullshit
Yeah,
because if you go to
it
group
is.
gays against groomers, trans against groomers, the traditional trans and gay communities are horrified with what's happening.
When we get off here, because I think we've got like maybe if we could wrap it up here in
Oh,
less
sure.
than 10 minutes, but could you, after we get off, could you send me a link to those groups? Because I would
100%.
really love to see those because I have not heard about that.
Oh, they're great.
Um,
They're fantastic. They
but
out.
I'm glad that here's the thing that I look at, and I love it because I'm talking to the most perfect person from the Hollywood industry. And what I mean is the script is brilliant. Like we were talking about, there's drama, there's this and there's that. But the one thing that the sleepers are going to be shocked to hear, like the sooner they can understand that this is the art of war and that this is why entertainment was created, then everything starts clicking. But my point is they needed to create that division as well. Even though how long ago, with the Black Lives Matter and all that, we've already moved on, but they're keeping it as a tool to keep dividing people. And the last time I checked, Sarah, everyone wants to be one.
That's right.
Everyone wants to just not have these labels, and they
Just leave
don't
me alone.
recognize the more that you keep staying in these quote unquote labels, the longer you're holding up the whole world coming
That's right.
together to
It's
say, oh,
it's
I want to
totally
help those that are suffering, and then we can be done with it. And when everyone wakes up, they'll realize we all got played. But here's the interesting thing that I love, Sarah, and I think that I know you'll agree with me. What I love is I like to think about like a lot of those like teen spy movies and like the superhero movies and so forth, where they're and I want to encourage people to start looking at themselves like this. And what I mean by that is we already create our avatars and so forth on our social media, and y'all play video games. They're already pre-programmed your brain how this new world is going to work. You just have to get the right mindset. But my point is what I love is that a lot of those characters in the movies and so forth, they were different and they didn't give a shit like that people were mean, that they wore different clothes and all that. That's part of the programming system to make people feel like I get so brokenhearted when I think about all these kids at schools because a lot of movies take place at schools. And what do a lot of them do? They pick on the kid.
clicks. Yeah.
Exactly, because they're doing the separation thing and so forth. But my point is that a lot of these kids end up being the superheroes,
That's right.
that the sleepers in due time, once they awaken, they're like, I'm so sorry. And they feel this big. And that's where they come up with the whole karmic wheel.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, this is how the game rolls. The game of life is now the people that were the bullies, that were the Karens, that were violent, that were like pushing, like, oh my gosh, you MAGA people. It's like, did you really get that freaking deeply programmed that you don't want America to be great again?
That's
You
right.
gotta be the dumbest fucking people.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say
Well,
it because
and
you gotta stop, guys. It's
well,
part
and also
of the
too,
program.
the ones who are the MAGA people who, when they even mention the MAGA movement, feel they have to apologize for it. Stop that
I
too.
don't.
Stop it. I
No
know.
way. I'm
Yeah,
wearing my hat.
absolutely. But even some people, you'd be surprised. They feel
I
like
know.
they have to say, well, I don't like everything he says. I'm like, you know what? There have been Pol Pots, there have been dictators all around the world. How come you never worried about what they said?
I
It
know.
shows you you were
Oh my
literally
God.
programmed to hate one person, okay?
Sarah, I'm going to give you a perfect example, and I'm not going to say names, but in the beginning of like when all this happened, I literally had a video, the ones that got taken down, of the UN talking about openly. Like they literally had one of these prime ministers from, I forget where, but had a picture of his face, had his name. Like literally, people had all the same tools to go look up information on these other platforms of past interviews and so forth. And I posted it, and of course it got taken down. This was a couple of years ago. But my point is he publicly says, we're going to depopulate the population through one of these. And and someone that I know made a comment, as you know, briefly as it was up, and I'm like, she's like, this is propaganda. Like, first off, I'm like, my question to you is listen between the lines, listen to what he's saying. Wouldn't you even want to do a little research? That's scary shit right there, right?
That's right.
But my point is I'm like, and I said to this person, just go look up his name's right there. Go on other platforms. Go join Telegram. And she's like, I'm not paying for any of that. I'm like, oh boy. And I'm like, and I'm the ding dong here. And I don't mean to call people ding dongs because that's just another label. But the point, you get what I'm saying, is
I do.
we're putting our own minds and reputation on the line to be
Yeah.
called and labeled to using our minds. This is a
Yeah,
mind game.
that's it.
We're using it. And that's just
right.
one term. That's their go-to. I'm like,
And one of the things I want to like leave your audience with too is, you know, we were talking about this earlier. This is not about left or right or the up or
exactly.
down. This is about being a divine human and understanding we have been so majorly effed with. Our whole
Yes.
biology has been messed with. Our
Ugh,
brain's been
pisses me
messed
off.
with. Some
Yep.
of the bioweapons carried information in there to literally make the brain into mush so that it could be separated from its divine source. So, you know, I think we're seeing more people understanding that. So it's not about who's better and who's not. It's really about saying we've all been messed with.
Exactly.
And also in terms of Hollywood, sort of to make it full circle, I just wanted to leave your audience with this. There is so much changing in Hollywood.
Holy Holly could
Yeah, right.
duality.
Oh, wow, right. If it gets changed, there's so much changing. There are actually clean, what they call clean productions, which are popping up everywhere.
Like
There's
Angel
one,
Studios. I
yeah,
just
Angel
saw them this
Studios,
past weekend at a healing expo. I should
right.
have talked to them. Damn it. Yeah.
And and then they're going to be moving like some movie productions to Texas for clean productions. There's like they
I
want to kind of
love
open
it.
up a whole new brand new
I've heard of a
now.
few of them. Some guys
Like
from
Mel
some,
Gibson, and there's a bunch of people behind it. And you know, for your audience to understand that not everybody's bad. People
yes.
also deserve the right to say, I didn't know I was being so manipulated. It's not their fault. And some
Yeah,
people are so easily hypnotized that they actually didn't even know what they were doing it.
I know.
The
I know.
CIA, when you go into black ops, they do these psychological tortures all the time. They're called sleepers, they're Manchurian candidate.
That's
They're
why they made movies about it. So that it's
exactly.
easier to explain.
That's right. They can
I love
literally
it.
wake somebody up and make them go shoot somebody, which is all the false flags we're seeing. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
think we all need to have a
Go
modicum of
back and listen to your
forgiveness.
movies and listen
Right.
between them, is what I
Right.
say. Go have fun with it.
But it's changing so much. People are speaking out now that were terrified to speak before. They're waking up. And it's not going to happen overnight. So
Yeah.
I'm even thinking of maybe dabbling if I know a production is completely clean and they're really trying to do transformative work, I wouldn't say no to it.
I
I'm not
think
going
you'd be great at it. You'd be a
to.
great person. I'll be right there with you, and I
Yeah.
expect some free tickets if you
Oh,
do.
absolutely. No, but you know, it's like, you know, we're always going to be
Yeah.
storytellers. We're
Yes.
telling
Yeah.
stories right now. We're doing it on a
Absolutely.
camera. So I think for me, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but
Yeah.
understand that we have been so heavily manipulated and messed with. I even
Yeah.
ask myself, what programming am I still in that I need to wake
Yeah.
up? Right?
I do that daily. I'm like, what else
Yeah.
can I learn today? What else can I? And I really want to top it off real quick when you were saying about the brain stuff. This is another example. When I went down the rabbit hole, I found that every single one of us has clear quartz in our head. And I mentioned that to some people, like, that's the dumbest thing I heard. I'm like, no, really, it's scientifically proven. Just go do your homework. And they are just so heavily brainwashed. They don't want to think that because they didn't learn it in school. But my point is quartz crystal is an energy conductor. And when you do this, and that gets
Yes.
going, and you keep doing your fluoride and all that crap. I mean, they got to do their research on why fluoride was
Right.
created in the
That's
first
right.
place.
And
It's
also,
gross. It's a chemical.
why did they want to shoot the temperature gauge at the pineal gland? That again, to sever the divine connection.
Bingo. That is another great example. So I love this. I love that we could talk openly, and again, I think for the record, Sarah and I, when we get passionate about this and we're like, no, what we're trying to say to you is please, let's all just put our egos aside and what we've learned, and just let's just do exactly what our entertainment taught us and do the right thing and help this big epidemic of helping our homeless veterans, the families now that are homeless, our rescue facilities. People don't even hear this in the news because they don't play it. I
Right.
talked to a woman this past summer. She runs a shelter for rescue animals. She's 24/7, like my friend Bonnie Lucas in Puerto Rico. That's a whole nother story. But she's like, I don't understand. They're not even posting this in the news that half of your animal rescues are going to be gone and they're going to be closed because everything is so expensive and people are losing their jobs and people can't afford them. So what do? That's your family. Like, I understand for some very unique, hard choices and so forth, but we need to be responsible with our pets because they are just as innocent as a child. So when you're handing them back to a place where most likely the odds aren't going to be good, I want you to start thinking about that. And we need to start working on those type of problems. And that's why I came up with my community thinking tank idea. I'm ready to rock and roll. We're just getting it started here in Utah. And what we're doing is and Sarah, I would appreciate it if you pass this on to your friends because I'm
Would
super
love
excited
to.
because I'm an inventor by trade. I'm not sure if some of the viewers know this, but you know, I am a very creative. I think a lot of spiritual people are, and I came up with a product and I ended up selling it to like the big box stores and distributors. So for people that may think Sharon's a little crazy, trust me, I got my shit together. I don't go work for other people that are gonna train me. I like to think, I like to figure how things work and so forth. But this whole concept was a literal download. That was my invention. I literally received it as a download. I was trying to figure out something that I needed to do, and that's how I came up with it. And this is what I came up with is, I want you to imagine this, Sarah. What if one day in every city and state around the world would be recording on the same day of bringing people together at a local park and in their communities where we can say, enough of the politics, enough of you said, she said. Let's simply do the right thing and start helping the people that are suffering. We all have life skills, we all have job skills. And the whole premise is people. Like, if we could do this and every person did this, we could clean up our entire world like quickly, simply, and efficiently, where you donate only 5 hours per month, whether you can donate monetarily, supplies, your time, putting care packages together, making meals, and so forth. The list goes on and on. So I want to encourage our viewers here, please pass this message on because, and what we're saying here, what I mean is think about this. Like, think of it like, let's flip the script, Sarah. Think of it like Google. And I left you some voice clips. I'm hoping,
Yes, I
before
will
we have,
listen. Yes.
but my
Yes.
point is, think outside the box, okay? This concept isn't a business. I was told that Simon Parks, and I mean no disrespect to you, Simon Parks, I think you're wrong, but they're like, he wanted to turn this into a business. There's nothing in it for me. What I'm saying is creating community thinking tanks in every city and state around the world, where literally it takes you less than 5 minutes to create media accounts. You invite your like-minded people, and then you say, you better invite your like-minded people so we can get this ball rolling. And people use their life skills and their job skills. They're already doing it. They're already doing projects for their employers.
Yeah.
But list all the problems you see, then put it to action. Boom, boom, quickly, efficiently. And it could be the new news, because I can tell you right now, girlfriend, when you turn on the news and you only have one story about your town, the people are the new news. So
Right.
people that have businesses, products that are made in the States that aren't importing them, I'm telling you, like distributors, their businesses are going to go down. And here's why. It's because when I sold my product, I was told to the big box stores, it's a whole Ponzi scheme. They're like, we got to get it to that right price point of $9.99. So we're going to refer you to go over into China to get your products,
Right.
done. And
Yeah.
that's how it works. My point is it's all poison. So what better way to create these community thinking tanks, get enough members, get the word out, and then by this spring and summer, follow the signs and create the movement. So literally people can start posting. It's like I got this idea from the Oh God movie and the Oh God 2 movie. I'm not even kidding you. Like the little girl,
Yeah.
I want to encourage every parent to sit down and watch that movie with their kids. It's great for all ages, but it's the kids. The kids were like, oh my gosh, that voice in my head, they didn't teach me. Like, that's my intuition, my Christ DNA, laminin and protein within. They never taught us that. No one explains this. So the point is this little girl got all the kids to, because George Burns was God, playing God, just like in the one with John Denver. And he's like, kid, we got to get the kids to think of me again, whatever God looks like for people. There's a lot of spiritual people. They're like, it's a frequency and this and that. We're going to find out it's a little bit of everything, is what I'm
Yeah.
going to say.
100%.
But my point is Sarah, think about it. If people are posting positive, loving messages, first off, it plants the seed for people to be like, I want to be a part of that. And guess what? Any and everyone on both sides can join it, and
Yeah.
we put our political differences aside and simply come up with ideas. That's why we call it thinking. Because when you think tank, people automatically think of the person at the top dictating. No, this is a place where we all have our own ideas to make this world work. It's going to be beautiful. So, people, you can catch. I'm actually going to end up uploading some new videos because the quality of the videos are poor, but they're quick 5-minute videos. I want to encourage you, go listen to it. You feel this, I want to encourage you to start it, because you're going to start a peaceful revolution in your area, and we can do this all over the world. And think of it like a Google. We know Google is bad now, okay? But my point is what if we went to one place, one website, where if someone wanted to visit in any city or state, hey, I want to move, I'm going to go check out a local community thinking tank. And also, not only that, I want to encourage people to think, like, we know of all the devastation everywhere. And we're so deeply programmed to flip. There's so much stuff going on. People are already forgetting about the LA fires, North Carolina. But guess what? There's lots of scams out there and people don't know it. When people start their own community thinking tank, literally there'll be 3 people that look over any monies that come in. You can put it directly towards humanitarian projects. So also the other half, and I'm almost done. I'm so excited to share this with you, Sarah. But the other part of it is, think about the big, beautiful picture. What I mean by that is, a lot of us are realizing a lot of the American Red Crosses and all these places, that all these people on the boards are making these big, huge salaries. I'm sorry, that money needs to go to people, and that money needs to go now. So what we're creating is a hub for all the local humanitarian causes to be in the community thinking tank in a city and state near you. All you got to do is add the people, and they create quick 5-minute videos, their location. People's time is precious. They got to stick in a local area, because we're all busy.
Right.
But my point is when we keep adding hundreds, then thousands, then millions of people to join in every city and state everywhere, again, it's not a business, but the people that take action, they're going to be the superheroes. They can end up creating their own news. They can interview people in microdose. We can even get the men with their contracting ideas and building things and all that. That's what I'm talking about. That's when you can bring the world together. And if we ever need to spread one message, think about this. Everyone wants to be one. And they talk about it, but it doesn't happen. But what if we can make this whole program happen quickly, simply, and efficiently? And what I mean by that is people start sharing their ideas, Sarah, of what's working quickly, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we all learn from each other, exactly what we were just talking about. So I think this is just a great idea, especially for the spiritual community, because I feel like they and the patriots, they feel it. They're like, ugh. And it's teamwork makes the dream work. It's not all going to be on one person. Everyone pitches in a little, and that's how it's going to work. Boom.
Well, it's such a great vision, and what I would add to that from a neurobiological standpoint, which is
Mm,
spiritual anyway, from neurobiology as a human being, we need purpose. We need purpose to get up in the morning. And it can look in many different ways. And I think what has been so eroded from the human experience is the sense of a lack of purpose,
yep.
or a dumbing down of our purpose in life, and to be made so small, and again, we have to remember, we are literally breaking a global slavery system.
Bingo.
You're in a global, and I don't really like that word because I don't believe it's
Global.
a globe, but you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
Worldwide slavery system.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to then kind of you have to unlock your brain from the Borg mindset. And so
Correct. Yep.
that's going to take a little bit of tension, and it's also going to take a little bit of understanding that you may go through some
Yeah.
rough feelings before you can get to it. But what Sharon's describing in this vision, this applicable vision, is it also gets people into the doing action as opposed to sitting there
Yeah.
memorizing everything.
Thank
You
you
know?
for saying this. Can I share a couple quick examples? Because I know
Yeah.
we've been on a long time, but I think this will be really good for a lot of our viewers and people down the road. Like I had a few people reaching out. They're like, oh my gosh, I love it. See, people are posting their ideas so we can store them. But my point is, she goes, I'm like, we should do a walkathon for the homeless. We can walk around just like the Ponzi scheme ones, but oh, still no cure for cancer. My mom and my aunt and my everyone that I know died of cancer with their poisons. But my point is, she goes, I've always wanted to do this. So literally people post like, hey, if they can't do the walkathon, do a sponsor. And then we put that monies and show the people, not
Right.
turn it into a business, show your records and send it directly to a specific small cause, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is a
Mhm.
humanitarian cause for every single thing, rescue animals, our veterans, and so forth. And also, you know, there was another idea where someone was like, oh my gosh, community gardens. But we're like, well, let's take it a step, a lot of us like a step further. And we're like, none of us really like to mow the lawn anyhow. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So why not find the people that find peace and serenity when they're gardening, where
The
people can
meditation.
exactly, but people in every city and state can start offering their backyards so people can grow food, fruit and vegetables, so no one goes hungry. And then you
Right.
keep it local so you have healthier food and so forth. Who else? The rescue animals. People cooking meals and freezing them. And what we're going to end up doing as we grow our group, we're going to end up reaching out to the small businesses because we believe in paying it forward. We're done with the big Ponzi bullshit schemes and so forth. That's how you rebuild your community. So what we're encouraging people, you have a business, plug it in the group, get involved, show the
Yeah.
people that you're doing the work, because your authenticity is going to come through. Just like all the spiritual healers that are in this group, like they're microdosing and doing quick breath work, 5-minute breath work meditations,
That's right.
offer something for free, show people that you really want to make a difference. And the point is like we were talking about with entertainment, right? FOMO is real. So when people start posting what they're doing in their communities and people are smiling and having a good time and they're having heart to hearts and not hiding behind phones and computers anymore, it's going to be beautiful. So that's going to be the other part to it, where the people that are still sleeping, there are going to be people to help you and you join the group, doesn't matter
Well,
what side you're on. Do you get what I'm saying?
I
This is
totally
the
get it.
plan.
But
Ooh,
I
I'm
also,
thrilled.
and I also believe strongly, because there is so much overwhelm. There is so much overwhelm. People do feel overwhelmed, and understand that sometimes, like, I am very good at saying no. I'm very good at saying no. I do not
Nice.
overwhelm myself in a lot of projects
Yep.
because I know I
I'm getting to
cannot.
that point too. Yep.
Yeah, because I know I can't be a great mother and a great wife if I'm going to do that. I
Yep.
have to measure my energy also to being able to be present, because we cannot have healthy relationships if we're so busy expending everything to everyone and then wonder
Yep.
why our
I'm finding that
personal
myself. Yep.
relationships are so stuck. right?
Yep. That's hence why it's only 5 hours a month. So
Right.
when you get 5 hours, the
Exactly.
other thing that we're going to work on this summer. So any viewers and future viewers, I'm just plugging it out there. Imagine all of us coming together at a local park, right? And we all sit in prayer and meditate. Because I'm a firm believer, and I know that you are too. Many people, and I'm not dissing any church, like I know people love God and Jesus. That's not what I'm saying, but we're going to find out behind the scene. There's a lot of bad things going on that is in disguise. And my point is the church is going to die and faith is going to fly. And you
Yeah.
already have it within you. You don't need to go. Nature is literally
Yep.
your closest connection to the Holy
100%.
Spirit. And
Yep.
imagine, but you also know the frequency and the resonance and everything. If we all picked on a universal scale, this is my inventor mind. When people create these and they just have if they join their friends, like you said, it's not going to be all them. That's the teamwork that makes the dream work. But my point is when we all pick one day to go into a local park. I mean, they already protest in them, so why not be able to do something
Yeah.
peaceful and have a peaceful revolution on the
Yeah.
same day? Can you imagine how we heal Mother Earth and all of us? That's the power of community thinking tanks, because we all
100%.
participate.
And it gives
And it's
people
not
the,
on you, it's not
yeah.
on me. And that's what I'm finding. A lot of people are coming to me and I'm like, like we all have life skills and job skills. Let's put them to
And
use.
thank
Your
goodness we're all
passions, your
different. Yeah.
hobbies. Yeah.
And thank goodness we're all different. And also, too,
That's
not
right.
everybody has to be good at the same thing. In fact, I don't want to do certain things. I don't need to do certain things. Let somebody
Mm-hmm.
else feel that purpose is for them. And that's what's so beautiful. It takes the ease off. And, I choose a word every year to embody. And
I love that.
last year my word was ease, and it is amazing when you really think about what does that ease mean in your life.
Great
Our
idea.
lives
Thank
are
you for
a
that
canvas.
reminder. I needed to hear that.
No, right? And so for this year, it's really abundance. It's really abundance, like real abundance. And I've made a decision that I'm just not going to do anything I don't want to do.
Me too.
And that doesn't mean laziness. That means is accountability for my actions. I say what I mean what I say. I'm not going
Yeah.
to BS anybody. If I really
Yeah.
can't help you, I'm going to say, you know what? I may not have the capacity to help you in this way, but I may know somebody who can. And so right. And I think to add to your vision that you were talking about is also being accountable for the world that we want to live in. How can we bring beauty into everyday life? I don't want to reserve it
Yeah.
for
That
just once
sounds
a week.
so nice.
Right? I mean, even in my
Yeah.
home, you will never drink out. And again, it's not a judgment against the plastic cup, but in my home, you just will never drink out of a plastic cup. And my
Yeah.
daughter was raised with glass and porcelain, and I gave it to
More
her
awareness.
baby because it's about understanding that this is divine beauty that we have. And so, how do you express that in every day? Not just for the fancy parties, not just for the fancy restaurants, but every day.
Yeah.
Divine living is in every moment and in every day. But we can't be
Yeah.
telling everybody to be at peace if we are around frantically not being at peace and not connecting with people.
Yep.
People
Thank
see
you for
through
that
that
reminder.
bullshit every day, which is why a lot of people are getting turned off by stuff, right? So
I agree.
that's
Yep.
important for us to just be measured in what we push ourselves through and also what we say we actually believe in. And it's
Yes.
okay not to know it all. It's okay.
That's the whole relearning. But can you imagine? Even President Trump had mentioned a couple weeks ago with the fires, talking to the staff, or I forget who he was talking to, someone in charge of, he's like, the place is already burnt down. Let
Yeah,
the people come in and clean it up.
that's
They can
right.
do it quicker than waiting on your ass the whole time,
Mhm.
because it's kind of the same premise. And
And
I
he has
love
the
it.
right people. He has amazing people because he was in construction. He
Yeah.
knows all the contacts, and they can do it independently. And meanwhile they're cleaning out the rot, and they can get people in there. It's
Yeah.
the same with Gaza. It's the same thing. I mean, when people are
Yes.
getting all triggered about Gaza, it's like, no, if you've been there, or if you know Palestine, it is awful for the people who are there.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
why
and
they all
so
love President Trump and every other country because we've been
yeah,
so
they
dumbed down
know.
here in America.
So
But
dumbed
people
down.
don't realize that's why entertainment was created to
That's right.
also dumb us down.
That's
I
right.
turn off, I mute all the commercials. I'm like, I don't need your evil.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
I
gonna
don't.
go get my natural toothpaste. I'm gonna find a local vendor. I need my deodorant. I want someone to make it natural. I want to have natural shampoo. And like, I'm going to support local. I'm not, I have been making a very discernment in my mind to not do that anymore. I'm done. I'm done.
No, we've been doing it for many
So,
years now, and
yeah,
it is
a
it is
perfect
wonderful.
opportunity though for people to go after those dreams. People love to make artwork and pottery and weaving baskets and like that's why in the movies they would always say, where like you come to the very end of the movie and they're like, gosh, I'm going to go on a vacation and I'm going to have a whole new life. Well, what do you want to do if you're not going to work? I don't know. I kind of always liked fly fishing and I could supply people with the fish, or you know what I mean? Like that's what's
Yep,
going to happen. And this is a perfect example. So I
I
love
love
it.
it.
Well,
I love it.
Sarah, real quick, where can people find you?
That's a very good question. I go in between this phase where I just want to just sleep under a little blanket, and then sometimes I want to come out. You know what I mean?
I do. Hmm.
So right now, I mean, I am on Facebook,
I know.
but
Ugh,
that's more personal too. Instagram, I usually do stories because I'm so heavily shadow banned. I do have my videos on Rumble at Parentainment TV,
I
and
love it.
I took a little bit of a break because I just wanted to be in real life only. So I was sort of
Yeah,
tired because I post so much geopolitical stuff that I needed a break. But I would
I
say
agree.
Rumble, Truth Social, and it's my name and
Yeah,
parenting. But really, I think things are changing so much that I
that's it.
feel now it's just wherever I can get the message out, I just drip it everywhere
Yep.
because we are in a transition and, things are still unfolding. And so
Yes.
the path is getting cleaned up and it's
Yeah.
moving and it's changing, but
I
really
see it.
everywhere.
I see that there's more information being out there. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for the people that are listening as well. I want to encourage you, stop following all these big people with big followers. You're supposed to be listening within here and taking that leap of faith and getting yourself out there a little at a time. You don't have to go crazy, right?
You
Like
don't have to
it's
go
like
crazy.
me sharing gematria, numerology. I decode entertainment and all that, and it all aligns 100%. So I'm going to be teaching that as well in the group here. And if people want to learn, we're being told it's the new spiritual modality. Because when you think about it, Sarah, how are we going to explain all the in-betweens to people that happen right in front of their face? You
Yeah.
go back to your entertainment, which is music, movies, everything, and you go back and decode it. And it's like your own personal tarot. But
Yeah.
that is how you'll be able to explain it to your friends and family.
Because a lot of people are going to be very, it's a shock to the system.
Mm,
We just happen to
yes.
be maybe more prepared for it in some ways because we always felt it was there, that we were not living in this abundant reality that we used to live in,
Yeah.
Karmically, I know for me, I was like, it's not supposed to be this hard. It's not supposed to be, we're not supposed to work 3 jobs. We're not supposed to be in lack. We're supposed to have a full
Thank
meal,
you for
you
saying
know,
that. That's one thing
right?
I can identify with when I talk to people. I'm like, our bodies
Yeah.
weren't, this is how normalized. You got people working 2 jobs, 5 to 7 days a
Oh,
week that can't.
that's
What
abnormal.
is wrong? It's not the
Yeah, it's not
people, it's
you.
the
It's, yeah,
system.
very few are these real evil, human, transhuman, reptilian, whatever you want to call them. Very few, actually. Most, the reason they wanted to
That's why
disrupt,
it's in the Bible too. So people
yes,
that laugh will be like, go do your
go
homework.
do your homework. They knew what the divine species was, and they have been trying to corrupt it ever since. And so when people tell you all humans are bad, actually, we've been messed with so long. So don't be afraid of,
Traumatic. It's traumatic.
yeah, it is very traumatic. So these teachers, like Sharon is talking about, we're going to need teachers.
Excuse me.
We're going to need transition builders because the
Yeah.
transition builders and the transition teachers are going to be essential to help people across that bridge and say,
I
you're not
agree.
insane, actually. I do
Yeah,
believe the ones who got the really bad bioweapon, I think some maybe can be cleansed. I think some of them who are so off the map,
I agree.
they're going to have to go
Unfortunately.
where they're going to have to go. I mean, and we are
Mm.
splitting timelines too. So that's
That's
why
why they made movies about that, because
that's
the average
exactly right.
person can't wrap their head around
They
it.
can't wrap their
It's
head
been
around it.
prophesied in every esoteric religion, but
It
you
has.
have to read between the parables. So
You
all the
do.
people that are like, I'll be like, go do your homework.
Yeah. And honestly, the ones
That's the levels. That's the
that's the
levels.
levels. And I do believe the ones who are very, very negative, and they may never see it. And you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
know
That's
a few of
okay. We don't
them.
need to control them, right? We know
Nope,
some
it's
of
not our
those.
lives.
And that's their destiny. That is their soul's journey. That is not me to control that. I can inspire them, I can love them, but without
Yeah.
sacrificing myself, because I do think we have to
Yep.
harness our spiritual
Yes.
energies. We have to be mindful, especially in our home, the frequencies that we live under and vibrate at.
Which is very
Um,
real. I had a
very,
hard
very
time at first, and then when it finally clicked, I'm like, I've already been doing it, and I never realized it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we
Mm-hmm.
have to be mindful of those things. We also have to be mindful when we need to walk out and step out of a room, especially
Yep, that's what I do.
family. Family
That's
can,
what I do.
they are our biggest teachers that we are born into. And
Yes.
so we have to be very mindful about the energy that we extend, even with family, because if
Yep.
it's toxic and it's really making us sick, we have to know when to walk out. That's called moral discernment.
Thank
Doesn't mean
you
we
for
don't love them.
thank you for saying that, because I myself, and I know there are millions all over the world that are doing this. I think most of us now are recognizing it's part of the ascension process to
Yes,
finally cut those cords. And I'm going to be honest, it was a little hard for me at first, but I'm like, you know
of
what?
course.
Every time I'm around them and so forth, I'm like, I just feel sick to my stomach. I get triggered. I feel like I have to explain the way I think, why I think differently, and I'm done with it. It does not deserve my time. I think we are all recognizing that it's our time to rise and shine and find the others and share our light
Yeah.
and our gifts.
Got
And
work to do.
exactly. I
Right?
mean, seriously, we've been so programmed to overly think everything that it's so simple,
That's right.
and
That's
I'm
right.
so proud of you, and I'm so honored to do
Oh,
this
cool.
interview
Thank
with
you so much for
you.
having me on. And I know I'm going to have you on my show too. So I'm really
Yes,
looking forward to that.
let's plan that very
Yes.
soon.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much, Sarah. You are just a beautiful earth angel. And all I know is all of you that are listening to her right now, subscribe and like to her, because she's going to have some really interesting content for you soon, and we could all learn from each other. So thank you. All right, Sarah, I'll talk to you later. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Bye.
Bye bye.